Hey Jessica, you're my star. You got your picture on. Gotta love that.
Yeah, why not? I appreciate you hosting this great event. Keep it up with your touch points. Took
Yeah,
about 10, 15 times for me to finally make on one of these calls. I'm grateful for that, the persistent touch points.
thanks. And you're the only one with your video on right now. Oh man. It's actually it's we actually and look at all the note takers we have coming here. Man, there's more note takers than there are people right now. How many note takers do we have?
Hmm. Note takers are the new participants. Is that the way it goes?
I see four note takers.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's kind of fun. So
I am. Is that like normal?
yeah, it's
I,
normal.
yeah, really. Oh.
It's
Well, it's a joint presentation, Brian. So I won't kick them today.
so Jessica, where are you calling from?
I'm in Washington, D.C.
Ah, you're
And uh,
turbulent times right now. I don't know which side you're on, but
Oh,
whoever's
yeah.
right now, it's turbulent.
I actually just came from a meeting with a bunch of fired and furloughed federal employees
Oof.
just to see how they're doing. It's interesting. It's interesting environment as somebody who lives here, um, because on one hand, of course, you're watching your friends. One of the gals who just got fired is part of my mom's group. So our toddlers used to play in the sand together, and now she's fired, and she's like, I wasn't not ready to be a housewife. But on the other side, some of us are like, ooh, housing just got. There's a lot of federal employees are or just got fired or moving, and
I
the
just
crisis.
think about that, but if you had a whole
Yeah,
house in, eh,
yeah. Because homes in DC, of course, notoriously expensive. Federal employees, have to move, and oftentimes there's regime change. There's often sometimes the housing prices go up briefly because all the people are just moving in, the new administration, and you know what I mean. But this time it's like the opposite. Employment shot up in DC, and then housing availability shot up. Housing prices dropped really quickly. And a lot of us kind of normal people, if you will, are like, hey, you may be able to afford a house in DC, like maybe we don't have to move to Maryland at the expense of a lot of innocent people who lost their jobs.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
So I'm actually from Madison, Wisconsin originally. Uh,
uh, Wisconsin,
Wisconsin, Madison, Wisconsin. I got
not
my
into rename Wisconsin.
yeah. So we're gonna wait about 2 minutes and then we're gonna get started here. So we'll see how it goes. Shane, what you need to do is to check when people come to the waiting room. We'll just let people in. We got
Yeah.
actually a small enough group here. We can have a talk. Can you imagine that?
That's that sounds exciting.
So if you want, say hello in the chat, connect with us. Um, and you can also get a copy of the slides and we'll go forward from there. So let's see how life goes today. So, and I have a favor to ask people. Tobias, Dean, MS, Gase, Giovanni, if you're willing to turn on your videos, it's a lot more fun to talk to a human being than it is to talk to, oh, we got InnoC AI Booster. You're coming on. I can see it now. Hey, Dean, how you doing?
Doing well.
So we got some cool stuff to talk to you about today. I'm actually quite excited about it. And it's cool because it solves a pretty important issue. And the issue is, everybody's saying AI is going to do everything fantastic, wonderful, better, faster, easier. And the reality is, unless you use it correctly, it won't. And what we're going to cover in the talk today is some new research on AI for innovation, how Miro can help, and some basics of workshop design, plus 3 templates that you can download afterwards. And since there's more people that will be here on the video than in person, that's cool. So you get the download links. So what do we have as far as a challenge? AI can be a wonderful thing, but bad AI wastes a lot of our time. And effectively, if you want to use AI right, you need to have 3 things. You need to have domain expertise. My slides are showing. Your slide notes are showing. Okay. So let me.
Yeah, the only great thing being that we all see you don't need any notes because you have none. But it just makes the image very small.
No, I made it small so I can see the other people's screens. So I've got here. So there, we're going to go back here, back here. See if I get there. Sorry about that. And so now do you see the screen right? Gosh, we're off to the races here. And I have to get this thing back on my screen somehow so I can see, because it's sitting on another screen. I like to look at people when I talk, and then I can see the people and you at the same time. So we're good to go. So to work effectively with AI, you need 3 things. You need domain expertise. You need to know where you're working. You need to know method expertise. If you're in finance, you need to know something about finance. If you're in innovation, you need to know something about innovation. And you need AI expertise. I believe this was enough, but it's actually not enough. And we're going to talk a little bit about a problem we come up with when we're using something that's really cool. Now, some of you are Miro users, and Miro didn't like this remark. They talked about Miro's point of view is everything needs to stay on the board. And actually, that's what we planned to do. But we found out that we couldn't do everything on the board. So those of you who don't know what Miro is, you'll get an overview of what Miro is in a bit. So our recommended solution is using Miro. It's great. Miro is great to connect humans and AI, but you keep your team on the board, but have one person who knows how to go off the board and bring stuff in. The context that we're looking at is we created this stuff to work with our toolkit, and our toolkit does some really cool stuff. And by the way, Dean, Jessica, Car, I don't know what your first name is, but Giovanni, if you want, interrupt, ask questions. It's much more fun to do it that way. So we've put together a big toolkit, which is really cool, which takes people through the whole innovation process. It started out as a couple prompts, then a few more prompts and a few more prompts, but basically we have 259 tools and 6 apps that lead people through the innovation process. And this stuff works really well. What we're able to do is we're able to run what is typically a 5-day sprint, throwing in a bunch of stuff from AI. And what we do is we take that 5-day sprint and we squish it down to 2 days. And when we squish it down to 2 days, we actually get more ideas than if it's human beings doing it. We get more market research. We have more stuff actually interesting coming out of it. And we're actually even also able to add a half day at the end to focus on go-to-market. But as good as this is, there's an issue there. And that is we have to fight really hard to keep people's brains on and in one place when we do these activities. Because what happens, AI comes and AI sort of takes over all your available brain space. And so what you get is you get all this text, you get overwhelmed by the output, you don't talk together. And equally important is you don't own the output because it's AI that's delivering it back to you. So I see some heads nodding. This is cool. I see Jessica going, yes, yes, yes. Dean, do you have the same feeling or no? So brains on would be a good thing. Now, what I'm going to do is fairly quickly, I'm going to go through some research that we've done. not because I want to share the research, but I want to highlight something about the importance of people. So we did a study, which is a takeoff on a study that was done by some people at Wharton and Cornell. And what they looked at is seeing, can you prompt to get more idea of diversity? And what they said, yes, you can, but you can't get better ideas by doing this. And we said, look, we think you've run the study wrong. What we can do is we can try something different in terms of the prompts, and we will get more better ideas, but we'll also get more diverse ideas. So what we did is we did a study where we tested students that were applying for a job and said, generate ideas to solve a problem. We had a second group, which is those same students applying for a job. And we said, look, we're going to give you AI to help you out. A third group is we're going to help them with the target, and we're going to give them AI. And the last group, we're going to give them some smart use of AI. And we said, look, if we do this, can we get AI to generate better ideas? And effectively, what we had is two parts of the test: human beings working alone, human beings working with AI with little help, and human beings using what I would call domain expertise on how to build ideas. And I can see this and say, wow, that's really small. What does this mean? I'll tell you what it means. So the first thing we did to help people out is we helped people with a challenge. We took the challenge which we used, which was develop products for university students, and we rewrote the challenge in terms of clarity to be more specific, give people ideas of where to start. We had one test, which is that versus just the human beings. We had something which I'll call smart AI, and smart AI is not overly smart. The winning prompt and this whole thing was, think like an innovation expert, generate 80 ideas based on the TRIZ inventive principles for our challenge. For each the 40 TRIZ inventive principles, propose 2 ideas. That's not really smart. But you have to know TRIZ exists, and you have to set up the challenge in a way that the AI is able to do it. So we have, as we tested all these different methods that you might use with human beings, alternative views, imagine your Apple doing this. We had leading creative tools, Scamper, De Bono's 6 thinking hats. We had creative combinations. We had some things that nobody had ever heard about outside of academia. And my favorite, which was TRIZ, and that worked really well. We did this with something called our toolkit. And the way it works is you choose an idea building method. Shane, you have to let people in the meeting room. Okay. You fill in your target, you click a little button, and what pops out on the other end is lots and lots and lots of ideas. For a typical innovation challenge, it's somewhere between 600 and 1,200 ideas. Now you'd say, are those ideas any good? And that's where we're going to get to. So we had the students working by themselves, students with AI and a target, and all these funky different tools, innovation methods. The first thing that comes out is the average result. So actually what we're looking at is the average quality ideas. From an academic, this is kind of cool because the AI did better than the human beings. But in fact, the difference isn't big enough to justify anything. It's not like writing. So what we see here is within this is the human only. This is with AI, and each time it gets a little bit better. The second level thing we looked at is when you generate ideas, you want different ideas. And there's something you can measure with something called cosine similarity, which is you take a statement or an idea. So that is a very happy person. That is a happy person are really similar. That's a happy dog is a little bit more different. And basically you're measuring the distance between things. Things really similar have a high score, things really different have a low score. What you want to be is you want things to be different. And what you find is that human beings For once in their life, they beat AI, fantastic. They give it more diverse ideas. But the interesting thing is not that they're more, so you could say, well, it's all about the same, but what we want to do is we want to look at top ideas because nobody wants 5,000 ideas. And what we did is we measured ideas above a cutoff level. So what we did is we said we take the top 250 ideas and we looked at the percentage of ideas coming from each. And if you want to take a screenshot of anything to justify AI back in your company, take a screenshot of this page. So we have human beings alone generating approximately one idea per 100. Human beings with AI, 1.5. Human beings with a good target, around 2. And human beings with smart AI, somewhere between 5 and 8 times. Now, this is not the number of ideas, but it's the frequency of good ideas. It's really, really easy to pump out more ideas with AI, but not only do you pump out more ideas, but you get better ideas. Does this make sense to everybody? Dean, I'm looking at you.
It does.
So there's a,
Sorry,
go ahead.
would you mind going back? The only number I'm a little confused on is or I guess how were you able to garner this percentage of top ideas? And then the deviation, like the two columns there at the end,
Yeah.
as the numbers grow bigger and as that percentage grows larger. How are you able to quantify the number of top ideas in that way?
So we rank ordered the ideas from 0 to 5,402. And we
Okay.
said, what is the number of ideas that were in the top 250? Does that make
Right,
sense?
but like what quantifies an idea? Like how are you able to put a number to which an idea? How are you able to rank ideas in their
So we
quality? That's the question I'm asking.
rated the ideas based on meaningfulness and uniqueness. And we rated them with humans and we rated them with AI. Humans and AI result. So we used AI because it's a heck of a lot cheaper to use AI to evaluate the ideas.
Got it.
So, but I want to take a step back and look at these ideas and share something that hasn't been shared. So the first thing that we have is the difference between humans and humans with AI, 44% increase. Good deal. Humans plus AI plus a target were double the number of ideas. Humans plus method expertise were somewhere around 8 times higher. And we have a new result, which is actually, you can use AI, which is one-off, or you can use AI, which is an iterative prompt chain. And we end up to, almost 17 times higher. But the most important difference is actually if you add human beings in the loop. So in fact, if you wanted to look at your on target, the number of good ideas, the biggest increase here is not just from using AI, but it's keeping humans involved in the process. And equally important, if humans aren't involved, they won't make things happen. So who are we? I'm Bryan Cassady. I'm a serial entrepreneur. A few years ago, someone asked me if I wanted to teach. I said, who wants to teach? And it turned out that actually I like to teach. And I'm on a mission right now to coach, train 1 million entrepreneurs by 2027. This year, I taught 15,000 students. Well, actually, last year I taught 15,000 students. So at that rate, it'll take me 65 years to get there. But with AI, everything's accelerating and going really, really fast. And I'm really all in on AI because I think it's cool. Shane, I've been talking.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Bryan. My name is Shane Smart. I'm a workshop designer for about 15 years, focused on visual collaboration. And so about 7 years ago, I transitioned to working on digital whiteboards like Miro. And 2 years ago, I moved almost fully into AI after I wrote my job in a day. I found that within a day, I could write an AI that was 80% good enough. And not every client needs 100%. Some are quite happy to do 80%. So I focused on all my efforts around helping humans think into helping AIs think. And that's my future focus. So the collaboration with Bryan around innovation and on the board and AI made a lot of sense. I'm also a Miro most valued partner.
So let me ask you this, Shane. Why is doing stuff on the board interesting? Before we get to it and get to the slides, but tell me, why is it interesting to do stuff on the board?
Yeah, I think it's the same as this picture actually in this slide. Thanks for the setup. You see that when people are all working on a board together, that the ideas aren't theirs, but they're shared ideas. And you can talk about them much more from a third person. But you can also see that everybody can work and see their thinking. So there's no hidden black box process like with typical AI. By running the AI, putting it onto the board, you expose the process, you expose the thinking, which enables transparency, just like in a normal workshop. And in fact, the parallels between everybody looking at their computer and running AI for themselves versus getting away from their desk and actually working on the wall together are almost direct between AI as it is today and doing it on a whiteboard. And what I find really interesting about it, just I guess my passion for it is, I'm really interested in cognitive bias. What are the kinds of mistakes that we make inherently in our evolution, in our minds? And workshop exercises are designed to get around those. And AIs make the same mistakes, unsurprisingly, since they're modeled after us. So a lot of the kind of things you could do on a board or in a workshop solve the same kind of biases that you get out of an LLM or a ChatGPT or a Gemini or whatever you use.
So we're left with a question mark here: is how do you keep human beings involved in the process? And I worked with Shane about 4 years ago when I was running online classes in India, and he helped me make some boards to run those courses. And I said, maybe what we can do is we can use some of these tools again to get things back together. And what we have here is a product called Miro. I only see a few hands. So how many of you know what Miro is? Ekar is Latina. Do you know what Miro is?
If you know what Miro is, type Miro in the chat. And if you don't, say no idea.
Okay. So Miro started its life as online whiteboarding, which is basically just a place to share stuff. Then 2019, I'm guessing that is visual collaboration. And right now they're talking about being the innovation workspace. And what I'm going to do is show you a short video. It's 2 minutes long. I hope it's interesting in terms of content, but I think it shows you the opportunities that exist there. And let's see.
So what's happened to how we work today? I mean, there's an update meeting about an update meeting from a meeting that was 2 hours ago. How are this many productivity tools productive? We message about the work more than getting the actual work done. The way we work isn't working. We're siloed off, heading off in different directions. Teams are, well, shutting off. Enter Miro, the innovation workspace.
Oops.
It's one AI-powered platform for the whole team to move faster together, from idea to outcome. All built on a collaborative, intelligent canvas. You could be stuck with a whole bunch of ideas, but no action. Or your team could use Miro AI right on the canvas to stay in their flow, creating product briefs, defining solutions, and aligning on a plan to deliver outcomes. We're on a roll. Let's keep this momentum. Turn ideas into interactive prototypes while using AI to get you there in minutes and get them into customers' hands for feedback faster than ever before. Another all-nighter finding everything you need for tomorrow's review? Nope. Easily find it all in one handy space. Some helpful suggestions from our AI sidekick. Amazing. And a quick check-in to make sure stakeholders are feeling good. Woohoo! Let's go! A project from start to finish, all in one innovation workspace. That's a go for launch, my friends. So where to next, team? Innovation belongs on the canvas. Innovation belongs on Miro.
Clearly have to put more color into our template designs.
So what are the challenges? We have people working together. People don't pay attention to each other, and they or to the AI. What we can do with Miro is we can actually force people to stop in the process and put in explicit review steps and getting alignment. Second thing is you have too much information to process. What do you do with 5,000 ideas? Seriously, you can't do with anything with 5,000 ideas. The AI does a good job of summarizing and classifying it. And lastly is, collaboration isn't working a lot of times. 1 + 1 + 1 is not equal 5, but it's equal 1.5. And what we can do is when we use the whiteboard as part of the process, we can put in explicit steps that force people to build on ideas, but also get them to work together. More simply, it's a moment to pause, reflect, and improve. What we did with Miro is I have a new book which is coming out called The Generative Organization. It helps companies go through the innovation process step by step, like we were looking with the toolkit. For each of these, we have a set of tools. In total, we have 28 tools going from prep to alignment to building, communicating, checking, systematically improving, soaking, which is something nobody will know about, and presenting the ideas. And what we've done is we cherry picked 3 of the 28, and those we're going to present to you today. So Shane, if you take over the screen here, can you do that? So
I'm going to start with the first template, which is for True North. For those of you that are not familiar with True North, and I can't see everybody. Sorry, 1 second. Bring you all back. So those of you that are not familiar with True North, what True North does is it aligns your team. So you could imagine your team are sitting there thinking, well, they've got slightly different versions of what the same objective is, different ideas of the constraints and how to get there. And what True North does is it takes those different directions and aligns them together. So we know where we're going to start, where we actually want to go to, how we're going to get there, and what we don't want to do. So the way the True North model works, and you can read about it in more depth in the Cycles 1.0 book, is that you need to lead people through the thinking together. So we ask them to complete a series of questions, which goes from what is the narrative? What is why is their particular innovation important? And it should be so clear that people understand it really from the get-go, why they need to do it. What's the objective they're trying to reach? What are the restrictions? So when you think about restrictions, it's important to think in innovation, not only what you do want to do, but what you do not want to do. And then tactical constraints in terms of money, time, people, regulatory, and then finally giving people a place to start. Once you have all those pieces in place, then you can define and write it as truly simple. So on this Miro board, which is very much structured like a business canvas, which you might be familiar with, we lead people through these exercises. First of all, everybody works solo to generate their individual direction and idea of what North looks like. Then once they've all done that, they use a voting process called dot voting. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but basically you just vote by dragging dots across the different areas, whatever you want to vote on. And then they work through where they've made the most votes to come up with a consensus on what they think True North is, the narrative, the objective, etc. Once they have that, then they do a checklist to assess, is this meeting the original goals? Is the story motivating? Is it inspiring? Are the objectives clear, etc.? So this is the what I would say the old school way of doing this template, where you really have to do a lot of mental effort to do this kind of summary. And then we have the AI version. So in the AI version, we've used Create with AI, which essentially keeps everybody on the board still. So there's no leaving the board. So it's the same set of questions, but there's a couple of differences. One is that rather than ask people to try and come to a consensus on all these different things that people have written, we used AI to break down the problem into pieces, let people vote and select on the pieces, and then merge the results back together. In terms of the mental effort, you can imagine somebody gives you a complete paragraph of text and you've got 8 of them to compare. It's much easier to go, okay, what are all the unique ideas here? Let's vote on those. And I'll show you some content. And then finally, rather than getting people to check it, you let the AI check it. So you can see between these two canvases, one uses a lot more space on the board, but we're still on the board when we run the AI. And the other requires a lot more human effort. So here's what it looks like. Here's what it looks like with, Bryan told me not to do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. So we're live. So here's what it looks like with a group of people. We've taken an imaginary case, which is how to promote cycling in the city of Belgium, not entirely imaginary, but the data generated on this example is imaginary. So we've asked people to come up with their idea of what the true north is, and you can see one thinks, oh, it's about creating I'm a biker movement. Others say it's about families living, working together. And in this case, we've just used the AI for assessment. So they've come up with their ideas, they've decided what they think the most important was, and as is very common, sometimes you get a tie. As they move across in the model, they've rewritten them down to be what they see as consensus. And now the question is, how good were the answers? So with the onboard embedded AI, I just select the prompt, which is here embedded. I select the post-it notes, and then I run it by going run.
Let's see if it works, Shane.
It's going to work. I haven't broken it this morning. It's thinking hard, which is a good sign. So now what I get straight away out of that is the AI has done an assessment. I'll just zoom it up so everybody can see. So the AI has taken all their work across the different components, and it has generated an answer. So for each of the 6 different components, it's made an assessment. The question, the area was, for example, true north. The question is, what is the headline suggestive of the mission objective? What they came to a consensus of was give yourself a 15% raise, guaranteed approval, just stop paying for a car. Great choice. The AI has rated it as 4 out of 5 stars. It's given some improvement suggestions, emphasize the financial benefits, include a call to action, immediate steps. And the reason for this is the suggested improvements aim to make the headline more compelling by highlighting the financial benefits and then carrying immediate action. So you can see that normally on a board like this, you will have all 8 people working at the same time. So we all see the results. We haven't left the board. We can be engaged with them, and now we can move around and talk about them or modify them further with our, apply these lessons back into our consensus, see if we can make a better version. So that's kind of the, just give the assessment version. Then we have, I can show you the more expanded version, just to show you the different kinds of things it can do. So again, we have the true north model. We've asked everybody, fill in your true north individually. They've filled it all individually. And now we have the laborious task of having to vote on which of these ideas are the best. So rather than try to understand what's in all the content, I can run the AI. Enough. I can run the AI, and what it'll do is it'll go through all those different notes and ideas that people have generated. It'll break them down into the distinct, unique ideas that the people had. And so I've got a lot of content on here. But now that we have just a series of distinct, unique ideas, okay, lucky it lined up for this one, 6 and 6. But now it's much easier to just vote on this singular concept. But then you've got the problem of, okay, well, I've got a whole bunch of singular concepts. I vote a few up, and I vote them into maybe we've got a tie here. So how do we combine these ideas back together without any human effort? Well, again, it's just AI. And this one will generate two sticky notes, one which will merge the ideas together, and the other that will give a simplified version of that. You can see it's actually come up with this very similar answer. Get an instant bonus. Stop paying for a car.
So, Shane, what's interesting about this, AI makes it easier, but AI also adds clarity in the process so people can really talk about what's going on. Because a lot of times people are saying the same thing, but in different words, but they don't see that they're saying the same thing. And I think that's something that's really cool within this.
That's a really good point. So, and I think the other aspect is a lot on whiteboards or in a workshop, you're doing cognitive exercise, which has low value. So finding the sub-concepts, merging the ideas back together has pretty low value. So once the ideas emerged, they just selected which one they liked better. Maybe they edited a bit, and then they run the assessment again, and it generates the complete assessment for them. It's just an example of the kind of thing we can do with it. So that's the True North template. So we have two more to go. I won't go into as much depth with those ones because they follow a fairly similar process and capability.
So Shane, if this was a beauty contest, how would you rate them on a scale of 1 to 10?
The participants here today?
No, not the participants here today, the Miro boards that are there.
I would say, well, it's a bit like how you rate ideas. I would say structurally, the way that they're constructed makes them very flexible to work with. So I'd give them a 10 out of 10 for that. If you want to move things around, you can just move entire columns around. In terms of the AI and what the AI does, at the moment, we've got a light version. I think a light version of the analysis. I think the stuff in the AI for Innovation toolkit is much more interesting because it iterates. But I'd give it a 9. It needs more color.
Yeah. But I think what's cool about this is actually just the fact that you get people to work together instead of it's not just the AI doing the work, but you have people integrating, working together with it. So I'm curious to see how you present the build ones.
Sure. So for build, we have a very similar process. So the challenge with building and ideating is that if you just get the AI to do all the ideation, then people don't really feel invested in the ideas. If you get the people to do the ideation, as we saw before, you don't really get the top ideas. What was it, 2% in the previous chart, Bryan? So what we can do here is, on the board, is kind of a happy medium. We've generated a series of prompts. So here's a series of prompts which are modeled after different ways of ideating: trees functional analysis, field analysis, clear views, double ideation, and there are many more of these, but these are just 6 that are on the board. So in this version, we have the True North, which was our aligned view from the previous model, from ideation. So we have our True North, and we select that, and we can select the kind of model I want. So we'll just go for famous innovators, drop it into an embedded slot, and then we can run that. I'm asking for something to break if I keep on doing this.
So Jessica and Dean, what this does is it's your target. It generates 10, 20, 30 ideas immediately for that thing, which nobody in your group is going to be able to generate 10 or 20 ideas that quickly. And so we had, 10 ideas.
10 ideas from some very famous people.
And
Marie Curie, Edison, Tesla in the persona of. So you see for each of these, you have the idea, it's rated at, there you go, I did break something. It's not formatted these, so they're very readable. It's rated each of these ideas by utility, novelty, and given it an idea score. So each one of these has an idea score. So that's great. We get, in this particular demo, just 10 ideas out. But what we really want to do to get what we really want to do is get hundreds of ideas out. However,
So we have
If we do,
secret trick here is if you let people struggle, if you give people AI ideas up front, they won't read them. Okay. If you let people work for a while and then you give them the ideas, they'll say, oh, wow, that's really cool. So the way that we've set this up is people generate their ideas. And now I'm back to Shane.
people generate their ideas. On the board, we give a couple of ideation prompts and they start to value, because they've done the actual mental effort to get to an idea, they start to value the ideation. And then where it really becomes powerful is in the AI for Innovation toolkit, because within that, we can generate on a scale of 150 ideas, I think, in this example. So the way the toolkit works is it's not actually on the board, but you can open it in this link, which is available on the template. And within the toolkit, you add in the true north information, which you've already done on the board here. And then you let it generate the ideas. And maybe, Bryan, you can talk a little bit about the underlying AI that's happening there.
So basically, you have an objective. It runs, depending upon how you do it, somewhere between 30 and 100 ideation methods. That generates close to 1,000 ideas. And then they select the 50 that are the best for your specific challenge. So if you wanted to run 100 prompts, do you know how long it would take you to do that? A long time.
Yeah.
If you wanted to evaluate all 1,000 ideas, it would take you an even longer time. So what you're doing is you're offloading things to a tool which does things quicker and better than the human can. But now you're bringing them back to the humans and saying, okay, this is what we got. Let's compare it and look at everything together.
Thanks. So you can see what we can do is we can then bring those ideas back onto the board. Once we've got the ideas onto the board, then the next thing we can do is combine all the ideas together from the humans, the local ones on the board, and the top ideas from the toolkit. And what that looks like is something like, well, just a big whole pile of all those ideas here. And then what we do is we use the AI to cluster them. And here's the clustering of the ideas, one we prepared earlier. And what you see is that as people see the clustering, the colored post-it notes are the ones done by the humans, and the yellow post-it notes are done by the machine. What people do immediately is they go and look at their post-it notes because they're the ones they're really interested in. But because they belong in a cluster with other ideas, then they start to see, okay, actually, that idea is not so far from mine, and they're more willing to accept it, which is totally not the case if their ideas aren't presented in with that cluster. So it's the old, cognitive bias, which is effectively not invented here. So by mixing both the human work and the AI work, now people can be engaged with the ideas that they're interested in, and then look around what nearby ideas am I willing to consider from the AI, and then you get adoption. So great. So there's a whole bunch of ideas here. So from here, again, you can see these dots. They've voted the ones that they found most interesting. End up with the final clustering. And then I'm going to get, sorry. And then we have a series of final clustering of ideas that we want to run with. So in this case, it's gamified cycling, categorized. And then again, we can use AI to do idea selection and come up with a final idea. Or in the case we have several ideas, we can merge them together using the same method that we did before. Did that answer your curiosity, Bryan, about how I would get through it?
So Robert asked a question. What kind of prompts are you asking AI? Some of these prompts are built into Miro already. In Miro, there's a classification prompt. There's a summarization prompt. Some of the prompts we're running here are actually hidden on the board.
And these embedded markers that we created.
I don't know if you can unhide one of these, but they're sitting behind a button, and that button actually runs the prompt.
Yeah, it's just a token, if you like, to visualize embedded prompts. You can pull them apart when you get the template.
to that point, sorry, are we, and I may be getting ahead of you here, but when, let's say, I'm going to buy this software, and do I have the opportunity to provide like my custom instructions to the prompt, so to how your internal AI is going to process things for my company, or am I just kind of going off of trusting your base software as it is? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So whether you have visibility into the prompts and the content. So the
And the
answer is
ability to like as to edit it or customize it so that's like for my company, we do this, we do that, and then I will that adjust, the way that your programs will work with my company.
So Jessica, you can, once you have the template, you can change the prompts around on the page. But we're not changing the prompts around for you. There's the template and you sort of get what you get. The off the page prompts, we haven't found a company that it doesn't work for yet. And the reason why it works is you're running so many that when you throw out half of them, you're still left with a bunch that works.
yeah. Throw out more than half of them, and you still have 125 if you run it. So the important difference between these two is, how many models did you say is in the AI for Innovation Toolkit?
108.
108. And so we've just got 7 models here.
And some of them are generating a lot more ideas than the ones that are there.
Yeah.
So for example, remember the Triz prompt from before, that's 80 ideas. And that was the winning prompt. Okay, Shane, we got to get.
We've got 11 minutes left. So I guess all I want to say about pitch ideas is there's one more template. And everything that we've demonstrated for you so far around generating, assessing, merging, and qualifying and summarizing is effectively all contained within the pitch idea canvas. The pitch canvas is to help you take those ideas and then sell them. So it helps you answer the pitch questions. Again, as a group, you can do this. The AI help you summarize and bring it together. And what's, I guess, interesting about the difference between this template and a normal template is, in a normal canvas, you would see that all the work is human. But in this canvas, the humans do the work at the start. And then after that, they're really just deciding and refining the copy. And all the heavy lifting is done by the AI. There's a link to the AI for Innovation tool, and also some one of Bryan's tools that Bryan really likes, which is called Gamma, which will create a slide deck for you. So as you go through, after you've had your initial ideation, it's effectively curate, decide, have the ideas generated for you, have your pitch summary generated for you, qualify it, have a look at it, and then it's over to have your slide deck titles created for you and your slides.
Yeah.
It's really, AI does a lot of the heavy lifting.
So,
and you'll be able to find them on the Miroverse.
So
that's it for me.
Let me explain to you what's going on here in sort of top line zone. So essentially what you're looking at is humans make up the story. AI helps you organize the story. Then the AI writes up the first version of the story, and then you use AI to review the story. This whole process, I haven't had a company yet that can't make a presentation in 2 hours. None. Zero failure. Zero. And what you end up with is you end up with presentations which are clear, straightforward, and people get what you're saying, which is not always easy. Let me do this.
Pitch ideas. Shall I stop sharing now?
Yeah, I'm going to go back here. Does anybody have any questions about this? Does this make sense, what we're doing and why we're doing it?
My only question is just about the integration. I thought you had the Gamma integration. Are there other programs that I have a feeling you're going to cover that? That was my only question.
Not in the time that we have, but I mean, what we have is we actually do all the stuff on the board within Miro. So for example, in the pitch, all the stuff is on the board with Miro, then we do a little bit off and then we come back. And for the pitch, we looked at making a pitch maker tool, but in fact, we couldn't beat Gamma. Gamma is just amazing stuff. You can take up an outline, it'll make you pitch in 50 seconds. You just can't beat it. It's better than anything we can make. So what I'd like to close out with is, a couple notes. One is you don't need us to do any of this stuff. We're actually very open source. You can get the templates. You can read the books behind this. You can look at the presentations. But I mean, sometimes you might want help. Probably we can help you go easier, faster, because we've made all the mistakes that you haven't made yet, and you will probably make in the future. And we've road tested this. In terms of what we bring together is innovation expertise, AI expertise, Miro expertise, all together in one place. And some people have even told us we're fun to work with, which is probably a plus in the total scheme of things. Now, I hate to do this, but I have to sell something. I have to present you something. We're looking for people that want to be testers with us and co-develop these things. We do a lot of workshops right now, and we're starting to use the workshops more with Miro, and we want to learn together on how to do these better. The reality is we will probably never work harder with a client than we're doing right now, because we want to make these things work very well. And you actually have 4 choices. One is you can do it alone. We're going to give you a link to the templates. You can try it out and give it a run. If you want, we're going to give you a link to set up a free talk, and we'll give you access to the tools that you use off the board and tell you where to find them. So that makes things work easier. We can do it together. Typically, when we run a workshop, a 2-hour workshop that's $3,000 for the testing before March 31st, $1,500. And we also do full day trainings, which involves AI training, Miro training, prompt training, and all that stuff according to a specific business challenge. Now, if you want, take a flash of this screen. You can download the slides. You can also do what I would recommend to you, is we want some feedback from you. We want to say, was this good? Was it bad? Shane was much more eloquent than Bryan today, or tell me what I remember. Okay. What we're looking for is feedback, and what you'll get is a bunch of stuff. But let me show you what that stuff looks like. You get access to the toolkit, which I showed you before, to generate your 1,000 ideas. You get a pitch review app. Truly amazing stuff. Truly, truly, truly amazing stuff. You don't believe me, but put your pitch in it. You will be amazed. A pitch maker app. You will get the video from today. You'll get the slides from today. You get access to the templates. You get a whole bunch of stuff around sprints. Get a copy of my book, and you get copies to training stuff. And here's what you need to remember. If you want to innovate effectively, you need domain expertise. You need to know the area you're working in. You need method expertise. You need AI expertise. But the real key to making this work is humans in the loop. If you take humans out of the loop, what you end up with flat ideas that don't go anyplace. That's the key. That's what you need to remember. You call us, it'll be easier, and we are kind of nice. So that was it for the presentation. Now we can ask questions and see what people understood or didn't understand from the talk. And we're small enough. You're
welcome, Robert.
So there's I remember I had a professor in university, and he always had this issue with students asking the first question. And he would say, you know what? I know how hard it is to ask the first question, so we're going to start with the second question. So who's got a second question?
Bryan, okay, let's go to the first question. What size team would you consider the minimum?
3 or 4. And there is something really important about the teams, and that is, don't get everybody like you. I don't know your first name, Akar, but your team has to have some diversity. If everybody thinks the same, you're not gonna get better results from the team.
Yeah, I'm the only one who's tech savvy, so it would be an interesting proposition if I bring this to the table. We'll see what happens.
No,
My name is Andy. My name is Andy, by the way.
okay, Andy.
Andy.
Right.
So one of my only famous pieces of research is I did research on group composition, and what we proved mathematically is you add an unintelligent person to a smart group, and the group performance always goes up. And what it is about the fact that you have diversity in a group, and when you add diversity, the group gets better. And the last thing you need to do is you have to have people willing to work together. Don't just force them into the meeting room and say, today you're going to be productive.
Miro is not that hard to use. It's pretty easy to onboard. Just takes 15 minutes or so. It is very like having Post-it notes in front of you and working together.
I love this remark from you, Robert. Thank you, humans. Fantastic.
The only next question is, which kind of was brought up about the diversity piece, is about the model that you're using that does the work, the base model. What, if you do you have any liberty to explain what that is, or like how do we impact diversity in the model itself, right? Because as a Black woman, I find a lot of pieces that are left off of some of these models because people who make it look like you, and don't know what they don't know. So how do the models that you guys are they based on, and how does that impact diversity within the model itself, within the ideation, depending on the product and the company that you are and what you do? Does that make sense? Like if I'm a Black woman who has like a shea butter brand and I make like body products and I want to use this to help my business to expand my market and shea based body products, how do these models, how their knowledge base can impact that based upon, you know what I mean?
So let me see if I can play back the question. So how do we use the models to create diversity within the groups? Is that your question, or
how are your models themselves diverse? How are the models themselves? How do we make sure there's not implicit biases that come from the humans who make the models that are in the models, but the ideas that we're getting are not themselves biased? Let me simplify that question in that way. So I made it down to one question.
Yeah. So there's two aspects to it. One is getting a diverse range of ideas from the model, and the second is, are those ideas that people from diverse backgrounds care about? Right? They're the two questions that you're trying to address. So the best way to handle that, and so I haven't been engaged directly in the prompts, but I have a fairly similar challenge in my life, and so. The way I've handled it is to design explicit personas, the model the behaviors and thinking of diverse groups. And in that way, in the assessment phase, you can get the assessment to assess from the perspective of people in my case, I'm neurodivergent. So I can assess from the perspective of, would I care about this? And so the idea generation is probably fine, but it's the assessment of, does that diverse group care is important. And the way to do that is through persona crafting of the audience. It's a non-trivial exercise because you get stereotypical bias of what the LLM thinks a person of whatever variation of diversity is. So it's a bit of who's the target audience trying to reach? Generate the personas for it. Let the personas do some talking and see if they need to get back on their bias wagon or whether they're actually doing the right thing.
Yeah. So
also feeding them content helps them, because AIs are all about context. So if you can feed them stuff which is demonstrative of stuff you like, it tends to cotton on very quickly.
Yeah. So one of the things that we do have within the toolkit is we do a lot of explicit things around persona testing and getting feedback from different personas and then merging it back together. And it seems like it's strange that you can make AI think differently, but you can say, hey, give me the role of a CFO and give me the role of the HR person evaluating this idea, and ask both of them for ideas to improve it. And they will give you different answers. Okay, so that was it for us, guys. So if anybody wants to ask more questions.
We have one more question from Altan. Ideation session's good. Automation's good. Do you also estimate ROI using AI as well?
Well, it's pretty easy. If you look at the sprints, typically a sprint is charged down to 25,000. If you get 3 times the results in half the time, I see you have a pretty easy return on investment there. So that's, but you know, the thing that comes up is actually the only return on investment on innovation is what you bring to market. So unless you're actually making stuff happen, it doesn't matter how many ideas you have. And that's where humans come into the loop. And that's where actually having facilitators that are able to get people excited and working together make a difference. So the answer to your question, Altan, complicated, easy to show that we're better, but hard to once you look at the real results on the other side. So it's been my honor, everybody. For the people who turned on your videos, hats off to you. Gaze, thank you very much. I'm guessing Gaze here in Holland, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I am. So I came late. I came in late to the conversation because I have very young kids and they were having dinner and they were a bit sick today, so I couldn't bail out. Sorry.
Oh, no.
I've been able to hop in and out and get the red thread a bit. So, but I got one question. Are you guys sharing the recording as well?
Yeah, we're gonna make up a recording and you get it all. So fill out the feedback form, you get the recording, you get the slides, you get the templates. What else do you get? You could come to my place.
I don't get the access to the other board. What's that? Like the notes.
Yeah. So you're missing a letter in your link there, Shane.
So I am. Add copy. Got it.
So you'll get a follow-up note here. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate it. Have a great night and talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, guys. Thanks, Brian. Thanks, Shane.
Welcome.
I was impressed, Shane. I didn't think you'd be able to present it in the time available. So it was good.
Carlos Vargas is here. Hi, Carlos.
Carlos Vargas. Okay.
I'm going to kick the recorders. Bye-bye, recorders. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed the show. Shout out to us when you're unrecording. Okay. Keep people into the waiting room.
Okay.
There's a bunch of people in the. Do we want to admit them or remove them?
No, they're in the waiting room. They're just there.
Can they talk to each other? No.
No, they can't do anything.
All right.
Okay. So I think in many ways this was better than the first talk. I find you had feeling for what was going on. I find we still sort of bounced around stuff. But I think it was also more human, this group. So I'm curious to see how that comes out in terms of evaluation.
Yeah, I would be inclined to kick the recorders personally. But
what difference does it make?
the difference is it makes whether you control the media. Because once they record it, you don't control it anymore.
Doesn't bother me. We put a recording of this up on YouTube. How are we controlling it there?
Did you?
Yeah.
The last one?
Yeah.
I don't get all the links. Maybe I should fill out the feedback form.
You should. Okay, so we had a couple of questions. So what I was thinking would be smart to do would be, why don't we make a real recording of this that's good?
Oh, like a stage recording.
Yeah, like you have the time, you go through it.
Ham radio recording.
No, it could be a ham radio recording.
No, but you know what I mean. A pod vlog.
So why don't we, really record this? So record your slides, record my slides, we stitch them together and we have something decent. Mm-hmm. I'm really disappointed with the show rate today. I don't know what the hell's going on. I mean, this is like the lowest I've ever had. So typically what I end up with is around 20%. And here we were at what, 5%?
Well, I think people have a bit of AI overload, actually. So I think the thing to do is to...
But it's an AI presentation that I did 2 weeks ago. So 20% showed for that, 5% showed for this. And I think part of that is how we invited people. So I took a lazy route and just sent invites on LinkedIn, and people sort of accepted, and they don't remember they accepted. So the question we have to ask is it useful to do these? Are we getting something out of it?
Well, at least 2 people today were vaguely interested in buying something.
Yeah.
And the thing is, it's the thing, right? Like once we've come this far, the incremental cost of doing it is low. Relative incremental cost of doing it is low.
Yeah, no, I think it's, the idea of repeating it and doing it again, maybe what you end up doing is for your demo, maybe you have a recorded demo or something like that.
So what we should be doing is putting talk tracks on the boards.
Yeah. Because
a board with a talk track on it, it's kind of like, I don't know, free strawberry jam on scones. I don't know what the equivalent is, but basically when people are scrolling through templates, it's just, everything's ultimately just another canvas. But the second you've got a recording and you can go and look at it, that makes it immediately interesting.
Yeah.
And I've been asked to do a talk on AI by Miro for the internal Miro Heroes thing, which is, 1,500 people or whatever, just to talk about AI. And I want to show the template there, and they'll also promo it.
Yeah.
So that'll be another opportunity to promo both the work we've done and the other AI stuff. The reason why I didn't get much sleep last night is last night I managed to basically found a whole bunch of serious vulnerabilities in AI.
Well, it's huge vulnerabilities in AI. Don't be your privacy. Ask ChatGPT what it knows about you. You'd be shocked.
No, I'm not worried about
that. Okay.
So where to from here? So I think making an announcement on LinkedIn about the templates. Hey, look, here are the templates. Here they are. There's a great opportunity to spread it out and get attention, because people haven't done embedded prompts in templates. I can tell you that because Miro doesn't even have a thing to call them. So I had a chat with Frank about it, and he said, own it. The other thing is, it's a great model, and I'm really happy with the templates.
Yeah. No. Okay. So why don't we do this? So we have first a question. Do we schedule another one of these? If we did it for a month from now, that's that big of a deal. I don't think we have to update it very much.
No more than we would to make a recording. And I think it's good. So we release the I can publish the templates. You can publish the templates.
Okay.
Tell me what the link strategy is on that, because we should flag the author as well.
Yeah. So I told them to put something on the template saying my name, your name, and things like that. Did they do that or not?
My name, your name, but we don't have the original author of the model's name. Like you did True North on your own.
Yeah.
Cool. And the other two? Pitch Ideas, obviously.
And the other one's me as well.
Okay. Fine.
I'm not too...
So everybody's covered.
Okay. So
I think what would promote the book a lot is to show, because I have a link to the book, but it would be cool to show the authors behind the book. Like, okay, here's True North. Here's the book. Here's 30 authors. There's 28 more of these. Basically that slide you showed. These are 2 of. These are 3 of. Okay. So I could add that slide to the templates actually.
Which screen do you see right now? You see...
I see the challenge.
Okay, so I'm going to put this over here. Okay, Google.
How did you think it went? I thought it was much better. Like I got the content this time, and all your anecdotes, I remembered them. And it's more in my field now, right?
I think we had more life in this one. I think we were more human. and I think people like humans.
Yes, like that Robert's comment. Thanks, humans.
It's
Let's stop the recording.
okay.
Stop the recording. How do we stop the recording? It's just yours.
So hold on.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
So
okay, now you can share.
Stop recording.